So I stepped up when the producer asked, well, would somebody like to come up and say a piece of poetry or sing a song, just to calm things down? Since no one else offered to, I decided to do it. Imagine this. The lighting in this mid-century TV studio is so intense that you can practically feel the heat. Even after all these years, you can still feel the electromagnetic current through the screen. At the microphone stands a young woman, her grin beaming and her eyes sparkling. As the memorable chord progression plays, she sings, "When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you is always an option," and everyone sings in perfect harmony with her. The Petula Clark is this woman, the First Lady of the British invasion, the voice of downtown, and a worldwide sensation whose music touched the lives of countless people. You remember her. Even at 92 years old, there's still a lot of music to be played. Her current lifestyle may even shock you. Forget about living in the past or dreaming of a peaceful retirement. Writing with the same vivacity, creativity, and defiance as before, the modern Petula Clark, a startling new era in a life that has been exceptionally extraordinary. Living isn't all she's doing. A landmark performance is in the works, a tell-all memoir is in the works, and her hidden story of quiet courage reveals she was ahead of her time. She is thriving. This exemplifies tale of a legendary figure who, despite the passage of time, remains alive and well and defies categorization as a museum item. We must return to the inception of Petula Clark's remarkable career in order to truly comprehend the magnificence of her present. An impressive career that has managed to cover more than 85 years. Prior to downtown's beckoning, Sally Clark was a little girl from Ulle, England, who had a remarkable voice. At the tender age of 9, she sang a patriotic tune for the troops on a BBC radio transmission during the bleak and uncertain days of World War II, marking her professional debut rather than on a glittering stage. A bright ray of light in a society beset by fear, her voice broke through the static and radiated hope. That was the beginning of her path to become a cherished child star, a symbol of hope for a new age, and Britain's Shirley Temple. Petula was ubiquitous in Britain in the late 1940s and 1950s. Entertainment. She became famous overnight after starring in films, making appearances on numerous radio shows, and launching a singing career. She became a household name in the United Kingdom after hitting the charts with songs like 1954's The Little Shoemaker, which portrayed her as the ideal girl next door with a beautiful voice. However, Petula began to experience restlessness as the 50s drew to a conclusion. The innocent persona that had catapulted her to stardom now seemed like a prison, and she yearned for a transformation that would release her. In 1957, that all changed when I received an invitation to perform at the illustrious Paris Olympia. The enthusiastic French crowd was astounded, even though she was sick with a cold and had her own reservations about taking the stage. A sudden realization hit me. She met Claude Wolfe, a handsome young publicist, the next day when she was summoned to the offices of Vogue Records. An idea was immediately, Wolfe dares her to take him on. If she was willing to record in French, he would collaborate with her. The answer was affirmative from her. Doing so altered the course of her whole life, not merely her professional trajectory. Petula Clark evolved into a refined European singer after shattering her reputation as the girl next door. She recorded songs by French chanson greats like Serge Gainsbourg and even received a tune from the late great Jacques Brel, whose fiery flair she enthusiastically adopted. An extraordinary privilege. Her fame spread across Europe, particularly in Germany and France. With singles like Romeo and Chariot dominating the charts in Europe, she quickly became a well-known and beloved vocalist there. The following phase of her life was defined by the collaboration she began in 1961 with Claude Wolfe, whom she married. Life. However, the United States of America, the last frontier, remained unexplored. Even though she was a major singer in Europe by 1964, her career in Britain was beginning to wane. Tony Hatch, a composer, intervened at that moment. He departed for Paris with new tunes, but it didn't feel right. As he was about to depart, he played her a few chords from an incomplete song that had been inspired by his first visit to New York City. He was frustrated and wanted to end the session. The music was contagious, an unadulterated joy bomb. It had hooked Petula. If he could write, she informed Hatch. If the lyrics were as catchy as the song, she would definitely record it. After its late 1964 release, Downtown became an enormous success. Culturally, it was significant. In a world teetering on the brink of tremendous transformation, the song's love letter to the city and anthem of flight struck a chord. In January 1965, at the age of 32, it became an instant hit on the U.S. Billboard charts, catapulting Petula Clark to superstardom in America. She became the unofficial First Lady of the British Invasion after winning her first Grammy for the song, an articulate rock and roll guy with an upscale voice. Downtown was only the beginning of its success. Petula dominated the American charts over the subsequent 5 years with a steady stream of upbeat singles, featuring Tony Hatch and Jackie Trent on several occasions. No One Is New to You. My beloved and I have discovered a location that serves as a timeless symbol. Along with the famous Don't Sleep in the Subway, I Couldn't Survive Without Your Affection. With an ideal blend of British edginess and American dynamism, her voice embodied refined pop. Naturally, Hollywood was interested. Fred, the one and only, was her dance partner for A Steps in the musical Finian's Rainbow 1968 and Goodbye Mr. Chips 1969, in which she competed against the legendary Peter O'Toole, showcased her acting chops. She performed with Hollywood's A-listers and presented her own television programs. Petula Clark accomplished everything by the late 1960s. Starting out as a kid vocalist during the war, she rose to become a pop idol in France, and then a genuine celebrity on a worldwide scale. The musical landscape began to shift as the riotous 60s gave way to the 70s. The upbeat, happy pop that had catapulted Petula to fame was giving way to angrier rock, more introspective singer-songwriters, and the initial noises of their dance music. The artist's mastery of the mid-60s vibe made this new age difficult for them to navigate. However, Petula's true turning moment had little to do with her waning fame. Decisions were at stake. Leaving the chaos behind was an intentional choice, of international renown, and toward a life dedicated to her loved ones. They had been nomads for a while, but in 1967, Petula, Claude, and their expanding family finally made it to Geneva, Switzerland. Their offspring included a son named Patrick, as well as 2 girls named Barbara and Catherine. Being a famous person was exciting, but not without cost. Unexpectedly, Petula has spoken openly about the challenges of juggling her enormous profession with motherhood. Being apart from her children for extended periods of time has left her feeling terrible and devastated, as she has acknowledged. The tension between being at home and being on stage was the major factor that caused her to apply the brakes. She remained in the pop whirlwind, but she did walk out of it on purpose. She began to choose her projects more cautiously, and the #1 hits became less frequent. That was success. It was finally her taking charge. Petula Clark was finally able to chart her own course in her career after decades of having it overseen by others. Theatrical performances played a significant role in this new chapter. She played Maria von Trapp in a big musical in 1981, per her children's requests. Reprise of The Sound of Music at London's West End. Many were taken aback by her performance, which demonstrated that her talents extended well beyond a brief pop tune. There was more to her than that. She had considerable acting chops. A lengthy and respected career in the performing arts began with this. Her turn as Blood Brothers' savior resulted in rave reviews for the Broadway performance. But playing Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard, a musical by Andrew Lloyd Webber, was her most famous part. She performed the show all around the United States and in London. It was a total 180 from playing the fading, hallucinating Hollywood star to the bright potential of downtown, and she possessed the part with an eerie charisma that mesmerized everyone. It was a daring move that demonstrated her immense versatility. She continued to record and perform throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but at her own leisure. Her desires were the primary focus, then what was required by the graphs. Claude Wolfe also had an impact on her life. Despite their love split in the 90s, they stayed very close and never divorced. They stuck with a contemporary arrangement that served them well and continued to complement one another. The strong connection they formed was evident in it. She became the woman she is now in large part because of this time. During this period, the meaning of success was being redefined. Having a globally popular song was no longer a priority. It centered on constructing a productive and satisfying life. Because of her, we now know that artists may have many personas. As a child, she had been a pop icon, a French sensation, and a child star. She had risen to the position of family leader, revered theater actress, and legendary performer. It was the slow, steady grind of establishing a reputation based not on popular songs but on genuine skill. Petula Clark's character is revealed more by a less flashy part of her professional narrative than by any number of gold records. It was a silent act of rebellion that, in hindsight, woman in the forefront of historical justice. A modest, unplanned gesture occurred in 1968 while she was filming her own NBC television special. It sent shockwaves through the corridors of corporate power. If you want to understand the gravity of this moment, think back to 1968 in the United States. Discord swept the nation as the civil rights movement and the Vietnam War were both reaching a critical mass. There was a significant spike in racial tensions. Petula was about to perform a duet with her special guest, the renowned singer, actor, and campaigner Harry Belafonte, in this tense setting. She had performed the song as an anti-war hymn, created a work titled On the Path of Glory. As the song reached its most dramatic point during taping, an impromptu incident occurred. Intrigued by Harry Belafonte's performance, Petula reached out and delicately caressed his arm for a moment. It was just two creative people sharing a genuine, intimate moment. In today's world, nobody would bat an eye. However, an earthquake occurred in 1968. A Chrysler executive, who was in charge of the show's sponsorship, was appalled to see the tape. A sense of creative harmony eluded him. He beheld a Caucasian lady reached out and touched a black man live on camera. The request from the sponsor came quick. Delete that scene. A new perspective, one in which the touch never occurred, was their insistence. Everyone understood. They liked the show without the interracial romance politics. Claude Wolfe, Petula's husband and manager, was under immense pressure. What was at stake was a prime-time television program. Just making the cut would have been the easy thing to accomplish. Claude and Petula, however, declined. Recognizing the demand for what it is, overt racism, they were appalled. They maintained their position. They warned the NBC executives that they would request all of the performance tapes for the original performance if it was changed in any way, unique, and should be disposed of. They refused to cave to prejudice, even if it meant canceling the entire program. An incredible display of bravery. Chrysler and NBC grudgingly withdrew their support after realizing they would have no show to air. At the time, on April 2, 1968, the special Petula was telecast in its entirety, including the duet. The feeling persisted. Many people believe that was the first time a racial couple from different countries physically interacted on American television. No one ever heard Petula Clark brag about this. At this time, both she and Belafonte have maintained that it was an unanticipated and natural occurrence. She wasn't an activist on the same level as Belafonte, but she stood firm when her beliefs were challenged. Instead of waving a protest placard, she made her voice heard by adherents to moral principles. The story unveils the strong character hiding behind the pop star image, demonstrating that the woman who sang about uniting downtown was also incredibly courageous. Today, Petula Clark isn't content to sit on her success, rather she's aggressively expanding upon those people. Even though most people her age have retired by now, Petula is 92 and experiencing something of a creative resurgence. Her current life exemplifies graceful aging with passion, purpose, and velocity that would make younger artists green with envy. And maybe her perspective on aging is the most astonishing aspect. Petula has gone against the grain in a field that is youth-obsessed. She notably refused plastic surgery and instead accepted aging as a natural part of life. The lines on her face are the result of a life well lived, and she carries them with confidence. She has no interest in reliving her youth, but rather in savoring the here and now while carrying on with her passion project. During this time, I have also experienced significant personal loss. Her collaborator, husband of almost 60 years, and father of her children, Claude Wolfe, passed away in March 2024, her 93rd year on this earth. Their connection was unwavering, even if they had spent years apart. She broke the news of his death with anguish, describing him as her husband of many wonderful years. It was the final chapter in a legendary collaboration that catapulted them from obscurity in a Parisian office to superstardom on a worldwide scale. Her resiliency is unwavering, especially after experiencing such a tragic loss. That power is driving a tremendous surge in creative endeavors. On this tour, she isn't merely performing her best songs, she continues to create. With her 2017 album Living for Today demonstrated that her voice is still a superb instrument with its blend of original compositions and stunning covers of timeless tunes such as Blackbird by the Beatles. Moreover, to commemorate the 60th anniversary of Downtown, she is also organizing a monumental concert in London. Give that some thought. She will perform with an orchestra to honor the legacy of the song that changed her life 60 years ago. Her enthusiasm for performance shines through, as she describes the intimate connection she has with the crowd as a near-spiritual experience. That passion for performing is what sustains her. She is now prepared to share her narrative for the very first time. She will publish her memoirs in October 2025 with the working title, Is That You, Petula?, a play on a question that John Lennon posed to her during the famed Bed-In for Peace performance. The biography claims to be an open and honest account of her remarkable life, beginning with her troubled upbringing and continuing with the tales of her contacts with legendary musicians like Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley. What a remarkable modern-day Petula Clark. She's not all show and no substance. A multi-talented artist, she writes, performs and produces. Famous musician. She pays respect to her heritage while keeping her feet firmly and excitingly on the ground, in the here and now with an eye toward the future. The fact that she is still with us at the age of 92 isn't the only revelation. The fact that she's still making art, making an impact, and catch everyone off guard. Petula Clark has left an enormous legacy. No one song or decade can capture its essence. Hers is an enduring tale of grace and purity that transcends the epochs, a testament to her uncanny capacity to change with the wind. Talent. Imagine the enormity of her journey. A nation at war heard her first as an angel of hope. After that, she ruled the European pop charts and became known as the First Lady of the British invasion, thanks to her role in Downtown. There was a shift in the pop charts, but she failed to simply vanish. By starring in critically acclaimed musicals like Sunset Boulevard and The Sound of Music, she reimagined herself as a beloved theater icon. On its own, her body of musical work is immense. Her songs have become ingrained in our lives, with over 68 million recordings sold. This group has been in movies like Girl Interrupted, as well as series like Seinfeld and Lost, which brought her writing to a new audience. Many modern musicians still cover her songs, and her flawless voice is still an inspiration to singers today. Yet her impact extends far beyond the realm of music. There in her alone figure, in that hidden narrative of her struggle against bigotry on national television. In her one-of-a-kind and long-lasting collaboration with Claude Wolfe, she has put a human face on the challenges faced by professional women by openly discussing her struggles to balance a global career with parenthood. Her legacy is now being shaped by what a magnificent last act. We can learn a lot about aging from her. Petula Clark stands in a blazing spotlight that she created for herself in a society where elderly women are often invisible. She is a living example of the eternal youth that comes from loving what you do and having a genuine enthusiasm for your craft. Surprisingly, the plot is far from over as we look ahead. There will be no slowing down for Petula Clark, what with her very intimate autobiography scheduled for release in 2025 and a historic London concert already in the works. A strong creative rush is currently sweeping through her. She keeps plotting, on paper, on stage. She is focused on the future, not the past. With grace and perseverance that is truly remarkable, her path has spanned the decades, from the 1940s black and white broadcasts to the digital streaming era. The young girl who performed for this, she has become the grande pop music, and her warriors are still going strong. In the same vein, who else from this fantastic musical period merits recognition? Would you like us to tell the tale of any legendary figure in particular? Post a comment telling us.
In addition, if you found this glimpse into this video chronicles the remarkable and motivational life of Petula Clark. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe for more documentaries about famous people and innovators. Petula Clark has always been more than simply a voice, from the encouraging songs that defined a generation to the quiet courage that marked her life. She embodies artistic vibrancy, is a picture of elegance, and represents endurance. Her 92 years have rendered her nothing more than a footnote in history. People talk about her. She divulges information freely. This chapter is going to be her most forthcoming. Even in the darkest of times, there is a light, as her music showed us. The lesson we can take away from her life is that as long as there is passion and soul, music will never cease. Beneath the polished exterior of a consummate professional, we find a fascinating study in contrasts. On stage, commanding attention with natural grace, yet in private moments, seeking solitude with an almost methodical determination. The duality of such public figures continues to intrigue observers.